Hello everybody, Hellcorrex here, and welcome to another episode of Thoughts from a Dystopian World. And today we're going to be talking about another Federated States of America airship that is, the Sky Fortress Savannah. Yes, it floats in the air. It's a big giant dirigible loaded with weapons and bombs and aircraft. It's a flying aircraft carrier, actually. The Savannah from the Federated States of America comes in at 180 points, so it's kind of an expensive little guy for what it does kind of bring to the game, but it does have some good systems on board to cause some havoc if necessary. Now, the Savannah is a Sky Fortress, which means it's a flying aircraft carrier. It's a massive area capital flying ship. So it has a minimum movement of 2, which means it has to move 2 inches forward before it can make any turns. And it uses the 45-degree turning template. You haven't heard about that one. So it's like 45, go straight, then go 45 again. So it takes a little bit of time for it to make a turn. So it's like go forward 2 inches, make a 45-degree turn, go forward 2 inches, and then make another 45-degree turn. So it's a big kind of looping type of turn it does. Not really fast when it comes for mobility. Alright, so a minimum turn limit is 2 inches. Like I said, it has to go 2 inches before it can make another turn. Squadron size is 1 because it is a massive aerial capital model. So, yeah, it's the nature of the beast. It has a DR and CR of 7 and 10, so it is up there with the battleship type of armor for something that flies through the air. It's amazing when you can use all this high technology and grav lift stuff to make these big giant things float through the sky. So a 7 DR is pretty respectable. It's better than most of the battleships in the game. So it does take a little bit more punishment to even do 8 points of damage to it. The CR 10 is pretty much like any other battleship in the game. So it is it takes a bit to do a CR, but when it does, well, it kind of hurts. It has a movement of 6, so it's not really a speed demon by any means. It's floating through the sky, kind of a lazy droning sound. It has 10 hull points. So that's not bad. For 10 hull points, that means it gets around pretty good. It can do the job fairly decently. It can take a punishment before it goes down, and typically it doesn't get hurt very often early in the game because there's other things that are more prevalent to cause them to be shot at versus this thing. Now, carries around 9 assault points, which is pretty good. So if somebody decides to get near this thing, it can jetpack some troops over and try to take over. It does have a really good respectable 9 ACAC. So if somebody comes in with any type of air squadrons or anything, they're going to know it. This thing's going to let you know that it is around, and it doesn't like having you come close to it. So it's going to unleash on you with lots of small little guns if you're a type of flyer. Doesn't do you much good against. Otherwise, it does have 4cc countermeasures. Being a flyer, I've always wondered, what is the purpose? They always put these things on here because eventually they might have some type of weapon system that does use like aerial torpedoes, but those are called rockets. So, I don't know. Now, if this thing does happen to bump into something, it uses 6 dice. So it can do some damage if it rams into something. So if you're down to your last hull point and you want to go out with a big bang, ram. What the heck? What you got to lose? Alright, so now it does have some interesting weapon systems on board. Mainly the primary weapon systems on this thing is a aircraft carrier. So it carries around 9 aircraft, the little small air squadrons. which here it says you can go by, carries 4 wings, so you can bring out fighters, dive bombers, torpedo bombers. Typically, since it's 9, I think we always went, it was like you'd have a 4 and a 5. So I don't understand why the 2 4s, but they wrote it that way. So that is its primary extended weapon system, other than its broadsides. So you send those things out there, shoot things up, and then come back and reload. Reconstitute some squadrons or something like that. That's typically what we do. It does have a problem with fuel reserves. It is an aircraft carrier, so it's carrying around a lot of munitions and fuel for those little air squadrons on board. So if this thing does take CR on a 5 or 6, it does catch on fire with a raging fire. So you got a fire going on board, which kills Marines, your assault points, and really causes you problems. Now, it does have the other MAR is aerial or area bombardment, bomb bay. So it has 2 bomb bays on board, which have a range of 2, so 360-degree arc. So basically, it's like, all right, from 2 inches from your template of your movement base, you can measure 2 inches out, and you can drop a template down on the water or ground or wherever underneath you and go. And it's an area bombardment, so you got 2 bomb bays, so you put down 2 small templates, and it's indiscriminate attack. So basically, 5 or 6, you get hit. So it's like if somebody happens to get underneath you, say you're flying along and you see some, let's say, destroyers or something of that nature, or some frigates or corvettes, it's like, hello, like, boom, drop 9 dice. The template does 9, everything on it, it's like 9 dice. He's like, everything underneath it. That's a nice little thing. So have fun with that one. Now, its other primary weapon system is its broadside, which is the Broadside Arc. Basically 45 degrees arc from each. If you look at the movement base on one of these things, it has a little broadside arcs already measured out on it. So you just measure out from that, and then you go out to 4 range bands, which is really nice. This thing has a really good broadside arc. So if you're out there at range 32 to 25 to 32 range, somewhere in there, this thing can throw 6 dice at you. So it can damage pretty much any ship in the game. Primary, I usually go after like cruisers or destroyers or something of that nature, or even other aerial ships that may be floating out there and about. So throw 6 dice at them and just see what sticks. So typically I like to pick on cruisers or anything like that, which means when you have a broadside arc, when you set this thing up, I have a tendency to kind of angle it either lengthwise with your back of your board, so it can just kind of angle towards the other corner, and then you got your broadside arc will be from one corner to the other, from your corner to the other corner, and anybody that falls within that area is liable to be a target. So it's like, as you slowly inch along, and I only move this thing a minimum of 2 inches, like inch it along as you go. Now, if you really want to move it forward and possibly hit a target a little closer, you can increase the speed up to 6 and try to get a little. It's like if you look at it, it's like, okay, this guy is. If I move forward another, like say 3 inches, I can get into range. Yeah, go ahead, do that. So you're able to throw some dice at somebody. And then if you get into the 3rd range band, you're throwing 8 dice, which is really good. And if you get into the 2nd range band, you're throwing 10 dice. And if you get somebody in the 1st range band, and typically anybody in the 1st range band is going to be another flyer or something of that nature. and you're throwing 14 dice. If you throw 14 dice at, say, somebody's got a bomber or some type of aircraft or something of that nature, they're going to know that you're there. When you throw 14 dice at them and hit them, they were like, oh, I didn't like this so much. You know, they're going to be a hurting unit. So that's kind of like how I like to use this thing, is that throw my air squadrons out there, use them as the primary, and then just kind of snipe away with the broadsides. And then if somebody had, all right, let's say towards later in the game, you got somebody on one side of the board, your port and starboard side, turn this thing so your port and starboard side, and then aim this thing forward, and then hit them with both broadsides. Get both broadsides rocking and rolling with your carrier. You can hit somebody on the port and starboard side, and then have your small air squadrons doing their job, doing the old carrier action, doing the dive bombing or torpedo bombs. And typically, a lot of times, I'll have one squadron that I'll be sending out will be like 5 dive bombers or 5 torpedo bombers, and then have a squadron of 4 fighters for protection. Or it just depends on what other type of stuff you're running with you. So if you got, let's say, another carrier running around, let's say you got a surface carrier, maybe I'll have that one running the fighters, and this one will do the be running the other ones, so back and forth. But being their carriers, you know, either or, you know, it's like you can land on any type of carrier as long as it's your carrier with the same type of aircraft. So there you go, you can run that way, cause problems for people. But that is the Savannah Sky Fortress in a nutshell. It's a good little ship. I prefer this one over the early one we were talking about, the not the I can't remember. Let me look here. I'm having a brain lock all of a sudden. Saratoga. There we go. Fleet carrier. That one is good. Has a good broadside up close, but it's basically the same one, but it's cheaper. So you got 125 points. You're paying roughly 55 more points to get the extra range band and then the bombs. So, but a lot of times that is the equivalent of taking, that's one cruiser. You know, your difference of one light cruiser, a Lexington. So basically, you're carrying around a Lexington equivalent with the other one here, the Savannah. So, but I'm rather have that little extra firepower out at longer range for the same equivalent of it. You know, if you understand what I'm saying, it's like I'd prefer. And if someone gets close to this thing, and you decide to fly out a little closer, you know, move the 6-inch movement, and then drop 2 templates of bombs on them, yeah, they'll know that too. So they're not going to like you very much, you know, to put it bluntly. But that's the Savannah. It's a good little aircraft carrier in the sky. All right. Hope you guys like this one. Like and subscribe and share with all your friends, and we will talk with y'all later. Hellcracks out.